You know, there's a lot of good ways to get mythics in Wynncraft, but I think I found one of the worst ways to get mythics, and that's through here, the good old Forgery. If anyone even remembers what this place is, I mean they kind of updated it with this really interesting looking ship, but not much. You can get mythics from the Forgery. That's the goal, ain't it? Well, not the goal, but it is something that I could do. And I remember like back, I don't even know if it was ever super viable for it. It was better than loot running for a little bit, but it cost a lot more money. I would say it's a lot lower than most chances would probably be from a actual loot running chest. But I have no idea why they decided that a corrupted Megalodon was going to be the boss of that part of the dungeon. But by God, is it really funny? If I go through all of these, there's a chance that I myself could get a mythic, and it's a low one, 1% chance. And the pity system, guess what? This crazy pity system, it has a whopping zero point 0.1 every time you fail. Every time, that's like, whoa. The pity system's kind of garbage, because, like, I know, this is, like, made back when Wynncraft was still trying to make mythics, like, ludicrously rare and be, like, 1 in 1,008,275 chests, you get, like, maybe 1 or 2. And, that was it. And you'd be like, yay, thanks, Wynncraft, let's keep it that way. I'm actually so good at this game. I think I failed this like probably 30 times in the past. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait, don't fuck it up. I swear to God, why do I have to fight a corrupted fucking fraud? This is not real. This is not real. He's so silly looking. It's like me before I got braces and I looked British, except for I'm not British. But as I was saying, costs a bit to do the dungeons, and then it's like, okay, your mythic reward chance it's a positive number, which is surprising, especially from Wynncraft. God damn it. You go through a lot of runes, a lot of keys. The keys are not cheap. They're like an LE each for most of them. A couple of them are like literally just emeralds. I don't even know what dictates that. Like, who the fuck is grinding these keys? Like, I know they drop randomly for raids, but I just throw them on the floor without even reading them. So I couldn't even tell you which grade gave what key to, like, oh god, I should probably like look into that. But for the most part, they're kind of expensive, and you have to go through it, and you're gonna spend like 10-ish LE a run. And statistically speaking, that's a bit of money for not even a guaranteed mythic that you just buy a mythic eventually. I don't feel the need to do this. Freaking, why does this intro exist? It's like the goddamn PowerPoint transition where he just slides closer and looks at me with his ugly beard and rotund belly button. Truly a cinematic masterpiece. I feel like dungeons they really capitalize on the beauty that is Wynncraft, and how in God's green earth do I escape this place? Is it through here? Yes, it is. I'm not God's best Wynncraft player, probably one of God's worst Wynncraft players, actually, I would dare so say myself. And so, but dying in this, you get restart. Like in Wynncraft, or like in loot running, guess what? You die, you don't even lose soul point. You don't even lose anything. You just sit there and you're like, oh man, I lost a minute, and I lost a challenge. In this one, if you die after getting those kills, it resets. Hard resets it all. And it's like, oh, you know how you wanted to get a mythic out of this? Yeah, we're going to slice your chances like in twain if you don't do every single dungeon in a single run. And you have to make it throughout the entire thing. We're just like, okay, that's kind of hardcore. It would be more hardcore if I was worse at the game. But it's still kind of like, oh man, I slip up with my crappy build and I die. Oh wait, that's kind of punishing. But you don't really see that in a lot of endgame content where it's like, you can go through the raid, and if you don't slash kill in every room, people look at you funny. If you don't like sit there around your ghost, it's like, I'm not saying it should be more hardcore. It's just like dungeons are hardcore, and for fucking what, a 1% chance at a mythic with a pity system after you run it like 8 times without dying a single time, you get a 0.1% chance more increase. That's kind of crazy. That's like hardcore mode. That's like hunted. If anyone even used that anymore, that's like hunted, but for like raiding and loot running. Had a child. She's a really ugly child that looked like a dungeon. Also, I'd like to note that 90% of the dungeons, when they turned quote-unquote corrupted, they just slammed a bunch of red and black everywhere, and it was like, alright, so we love My Chemical Romance now, and we're going to make that the theme of every single corrupted dungeon. This is the inside of my colon, right here. This is like, if you like saw a car accident, like, you know when, I swear to God, I have to have had this experience with someone. So like, there's this like show called Black Asphalt. Is it Black Asphalt? Something Asphalt. and it just shows a bunch of like literally just goal related to car accidents, and it scares the absolute piss out of 15 through 16-year-olds that are trying to like survive their exams. And it's like, yeah, so if you fuck up, your head could be split on the sidewalk. And for the longest time during those classes, I was like, man, I don't want to look like undergrowth ruins. That would be terrible. It reminds me of that because like it's so fucking red and green. And it's like, oh yeah, remember black asphalt car crashes when you were 16 and Kobe Bryant died during that class? True story. Like if you're going through dungeons and you're like, oh man, this looks like a car crash like that. Like I've gone through the actual dungeons, even though it was like biblical ages ago. I have gone through the normal dungeons, but it's like they're so pretty and they have an actual. You good there, buddy? They have an actual like timeline and matching colors, and it doesn't just look like Christmas. It was made by Halloween. I also like that every time you beat a dungeon without fail, that it rains emeralds on you like a cheap hooker. That's a lovely touch. If you collected all of them, which I have, several times, you get like about 200. Which I don't know how many emerald blocks or LEs that is, but it's not enough to make up the cost of all the keys of the dungeons. Like the people that have like pulled mythics out of this shit are like fucking crazy to me. I'm like, how do you even do that shit? I do know people. I had a couple friends that have done it. So my like first forgery run ever, we had one of my friends pulled a freedom out of the chest, and that was hilarious. And then we never got any ever again. That was all of the luck for the entire ragtag friend group was absorbed in that single moment. And everyone went off to lead terrible lives afterwards. I would hesitate to say that this was ever endgame content. I used it for leveling a bit, back when leveling was such a terrible fever dream. That shit was like rehab. I cannot go back to rehab. Oh my god. But leveling, god damn it, leveling was something else. And you used to level, I think it was mostly Sandstorm Tomb, this one that I leveled, that and Undergrowth Ruins. And you just go through it and watch your like OP friends just slaughter everything before you, and you would sit there and just go crazy with it and get levels. But now it's like, okay guys, we're gonna do a full dungeon run, and you're gonna get nothing. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and big tits, but you're not gonna get shit. And like I've never gotten anything. This might be like a lucky run. If I get it, I'll have like crazy streamer luck, and I'm gonna get like a fucking spring and sell that shit for 4 LE. I feel like one of the most interesting parts about it is like a lot of endgame content is kind of solo feeling. Loot runs especially. Raids are interesting because you do get a lot of that raider community in there, and like I value the community of the game, despite abhorrently disdaining it at certain times of my day, where it's like, man, talking to this person in this community server makes me want to drill my eyes out. But there's other times where it's like, yeah, this is fun, and like they're like, there's a forgery and P finder, like that's gonna do anything, but it's like when you open this dungeon, everyone and their godforsaken mother can just hitch a ride in, and it's like, all right, Bethany, Chris, and Charles, we're gonna do dungeon runnings because this dumbass just opened it for us. And like you just sit there and like you could just boss rush it, and that was fun. You could like go through the entire thing and just boss rush it. Be like, hey guys, me and the 20 other people in the server, we're gonna go through this dungeon and we're gonna absolutely just murderfy the boss. And it was just this pure organized chaos that you would just have, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. For raiding, it's like, okay, we have 4 individuals. We have the party leader who regrets spending 1 extra toll rune. We have the random mage who still thinks he has a viable build, but is actually just running morph and then like something with healing because he can't do actual damage. And then we have like some other person that's decent at raiding, but he just wants to use this there for money. And then we have another person who's like really just a huge hard ass about raiding in general and has 0 friends. And every time we fail, he threatens to leave the party and only to get put back in the same P finder as us. Meanwhile, in like dungeons, it's like the only asshole is the one who doesn't put their like things in the door, and you can just farm infinitely more of them. There's a lot of things that prevent trolling in this, which makes me depressed and also happy at the same time. Because I swear to God, if someone just stole the tokens and sat there for the next 10 minutes, after even though it only spawned once, I would lose my mind. Only bad part is it would get like abhorrently disorganized. Like you'd have someone that got blitzed by the boss and like got hit into like an 80 uppercut thing, and like they just died because they're in a glassy as fuck build. And they're just dead, and you're like, well, shit, we can't, redo the dungeon. It doesn't do anything for me. So, like, you just have people that, like, split off with other people. Like, especially if you started with, like, 10 people from the beginning of your dungeon run, and then you ended with, like, you'd probably end with, like, 2. You have some people die in certain rooms, some people, like, hurt, not be impatient on the parkour, not wait for other people, and other people be like, oh, man, this dungeon sucks, and just skip out on it entirely and say they don't need it. And so by the end of it, you would have this, like, waves upon waves of just dungeon runners who would just exponentially be going through the dungeon. and so everything would be open at the same time. Basically, it was just really fun to kind of grind that. It's like you would have all these different people running all these different dungeons and like all trying to get like mythics, and like that kind of fosters more community than like loot running or raiding, because raiding can be kind of toxic at times. Proffing, I don't know jack nor shit about proffing. I feel like harvesting wheat with your friends can only be so much fun. Forgive me if I'm wrong, dear proffers, but that is how I see it. What the fuck just happened? I don't remember this part of the boss fight. Or like fixing like the mythic system, so that's like, you know, mythics or mythics here was like either you get 1% or you can get like shinies. Shinies could be cool, where it's like, oh yeah, you can get any type of shiny. Could be baller. That could be cool, because people like shinies for some reason, even though the only shiny that I think would be useful for me is a death counter, because this game hard. Like, I've been putting builds with like effective EHP of like 300,000, and I've still managed to find a way to get one shot. And like, no one in the history who has ever wore like builds like that have been one shot. But by God, has it happened to my dumbass. So I feel like a death on anything would be pretty cool. And just getting more shinies, because shinies right now are really rare and really fucking useless and really expensive. There are a lot of reallys. It's like the chaotic extremes of mythics for some reason. And they're just... Did I press the button? No, I didn't. But they're really weird. But it's like, you know, if, you know, Forgery could drop any shiny and just shinies, I feel like there'd be more of a pull for it, because like shinies go for so much. There could be more of them. Oh God, it's this one. Try to get people back to, you know, win to this part of the game and like make it on the same level as, well, not on the same level, but like, you know, at least competitive. Competitive, is that the right words? Comparable to like loot running or like, you know, raiding and like shit like that, where it's like, oh yeah, this is endgame and you can also do this. Because right now dungeon running is like the thing you do when you want to waste your Friday night because all your friends went out drinking and you have COVID. Where it's like, oh man, I want to play this. You just call up your buddy who also has COVID. You're like, yeah, you want a dungeon run? He's like, that sounds great. I can't wait to waste all of my time during that. Which has happened before. Every time I jump in this goddamn parkour, my ass cheeks squelch so much. Holy shit. I'm scared of heights, and for some reason that translates directly into Sandswept Tomb parkour. Like, just one for one. Like, not even converted, where it's like, oh, just don't think about it, it's just Wynncraft. Like, first person with, like, a bunch of speed walking through this is, like, the most terrifying experience. Like, it's so scary. Like, what if you fall? Oh, I genuinely remember the first time that I got my parkour room. It took an hour, and I was crying. I was genuinely sitting there, like, with my stupid $20 Logitech mouse, and it was just covered in my own tears because I could not keep up with the rest of the party, who had lapped me, like, 6 times. And I have noticed over the years there's been a few things that come along with, like, you know, there's been, like, fixes where it's, like, some rooms that were, like... Oh, what's an example? I know they fixed, like in Infested Pit, that stupid guy with the cutscene where it's like, oh, I'm being eaten alive by spiders! And then he, like, gets all evil on you and you just, like, uppercut him twice and he fucking exploded. And that used to be an entire cutscene. And that, like, if you didn't, like, zoom past it, you could, like, unironically lock the entire server out of the rest of the dungeon somehow. I don't even know how the fuck they messed that up so badly, but you literally just could. Because at the end of the day, endgame is just gambling. Like, how often? Like, genuinely, how often are you gonna sit there and you're gonna be like, this mythic is guaranteed? Like, never. Like, there's people, like, especially in shouts, you hear it all the time, where it's like, I rolled 400 million things and I didn't get jack shit, and it's like, wow, that's a different breed of unlucky. Nothing is guaranteed in Wynncraft. You wake up in Wynncraft and you're like, man, I could lose my entire build today because my dumbass, like, slash killed in the wrong room too many times after going to the hub. You can literally root run for like 16 hours, and if you're a dumbass like me, you won't get shit. Like, not a damn thing. You're not getting anything from that. And you're like, be like, wow, I feel like I wasted my entire day. Or you can go through like raiding and you just had shit raid parties, and it's like, oh man, that makes me feel bad. I'm not sure if I want to do this anymore. And that can kind of kill motivation, where it's like, you feel as if, ow, you feel as if like, you're not going anywhere, you're not moving uphill, you're not making progress in like whatever goal you do have in Wynncraft, because you don't have a goal in Wynncraft, there's no point in playing. But like, you know, you're not moving forward, but it's like with this, it's like, even though the rates are shit, even though like it takes a long time, I feel like if they're revamped even just slightly, it could be kind of cool to be like, I can eventually get a guaranteed mythic. That's cool. That's a sentence. That's a sentence that a lot of people have trouble saying because it's not true. But And this it can be where it's like, wow, I have a 5% chance, and that's just gonna keep going up. Where it's like in loot running, it's like, okay, I fucked it up 14 times, and I did 3 wrong zones in a row that took a cumulative total of 16 hours. And now I'm tired and going to bed, so I'm gonna do like a 5 challenge run and die halfway through, and that's when I get my mythic. Like, brother, like you see a lot of places where hard work does or doesn't pay off simply because this is a game of luck and chances, and like even rolling weapons down to like fucking buying potions could be luck. It's unique. I'll give them that. But it's definitely something special. Like they were cooking something, and they don't even know what they're cooking. They're like, oh man, I just threw this together, and the fucking dev team was like, oh shit, let's eat it and put it in the game. And the guy's like, wait, no, I didn't cook it yet. It was kind of just marinating in the fridge, and they're like, fuck it, put it in, color it red anyway. Grow up the dungeon, slap it down, put some profit weapons in there, perfect. And I'm like, there's probably more thought put into that. I've never been in a creative team in my life because I've been banned from most organizations that do have to deal with that. Also, fun fact. You can put totems down to spawn more creepers. You didn't hear that from me, though. Look at them all. I just have to lure the guy in the middle of the lava, which most times I just throw myself into the lava because he, like, listens like a 12-year-old who you just took away their DS from. Go into the hole! Also, entirely different story. In this dungeon, I'm like kind of a different kind of stupid, and so I tried to make a negative walk speed build, and I was looking on the win data, and I was like, man, where the hell is this prisoner? I couldn't find it. No one was selling it. I tried to grind the mobs, in like the areas, like, cause like, you know, there's like I think it's like right next to, Thanos. This area had the level of mobs. I'm dying. I'm gonna get the leggings from here. Turns out the leggings only drop from fucking creatures inside this stupid ass dungeon. They're called the prisoners. I doubt them to drop right now. But the fucking prisoners, and it's like, yeah. Like, the dungeons hide so much cool and random shit, and it's just like, yeah, so you ever done dungeons? You're gonna ask most new endgame players, like, no. I just got a morph and fucking rolled myself some random mythic on the marketplace because I felt like it. And I had one stack after doing like all of Laurie's part 1 through 87 Realm of Light. Which I don't know why there needs to be that many. The cutscenes in that make me want to cry. Try to not cheese the parkour, which is like, okay. Oh, I'm not even holding W. Where? Oh, am I boned? Like, help! Each dungeon had like this new ass feature, like the one you had to like run between gates and ice barrows, and then like the ice features and ice barrows, and like all that type of shit. Like these are like new, genuine features in dungeons, and it's like that's kind of cool. All these fuckers are really unique. That's enjoyable. And I feel like that, you know, making these dungeons unique is kind of fun because like there's a few mechanics in like raids and shit that are fun, but for the vast majority of raids, it's like hold platform, go to location with certain debuff. Like, or like solve puzzle, but like having all of these like little things where it's like each dungeon is really unique. You have like different mechanics in each one of them. Kind of cool to see because raids are very formulaic, and that's not a bad thing at all. But it's like you definitely know what you're getting into. Like after baby's first raid, you're like, oh, so this is how they're structured. Instead of dungeons where it's like, oh, so this one goes like this one goes like this. You have to like relearn them all, which is kind of fun, kind of arduous in the beginning, and I could definitely see that like. Stop spitting out spiders! Holy fuck! As you can see, my mythic chance is a whopping 1.62%. Is it actually that fucking low? Wait. Because it's 1% normally. And it's like, oh my god, I haven't gotten a full That's like the general equivalent of just opening a fucking chest, the 0.12. Okay, guys, mythic time. That's so abysmally low. They gotta fix that. I've heard that there's gonna be an update on it, maybe. No mythic. I heard that there could be an update on it maybe in the future, and I'm really looking forward to that to kind of get this that feeling of the dungeon back. And yeah, so those are a few of my thoughts about dungeons and how I feel like this should work in the future. I don't feel like it's all is lost with silly Forgery run, but hopefully it gets some attention in the future, and hopefully we see some changes to it so that people start running dungeons again.